when it comes to PC gaming, there are very few things more impressive than an overpowered gaming laptop. And Origin PC sent us one just a couple of weeks ago, the EON17-SLX, that has some really impressive specifications, including a quad-core hyper-threaded Intel processor. You've got SLI high-end graphics cards from NVIDIA. You've got RAID 0 SSDs, mSATA SSDs, all working together in a somewhat expensive but impressive package nonetheless that we want to show you. Any evaluation of a gaming laptop starts with looking at what you get on the outside, the features that you get, connectivity you get, anything like that. If we look at the right-hand side of the machine, you'll see that they have included an optical Blu-ray reader drive. There's an eSATA USB combination drive, 2 USB 3 ports, and even a Thunderbolt port, which is actually pretty interesting because we don't even see many Ultrabooks or mainstream machines with Thunderbolt connections. So this acts as both your DisplayPort video output as well as high-speed external connectivity. Along the back of the machine, there's a full-size HDMI port, 2 more USB 3.0 ports, and the power connection. On the left, you have your Kensington lock connector, you've got a gigabit Ethernet port, a card reader, headphone, mic, line in, and digital audio connections are all here as well. The keyboard and trackpad area is actually pretty good. Nothing fantastic, but also much better than what you would normally expect for a gaming machine. The buttons on the trackpad are a little bit far back for my taste, but that's going to vary from person to person. The trackpad actually has a light-up logo, Origin PC logo in the middle, which is pretty cool. The trackpad is very decent, has a fingerprint reader for security. The keyboard is backlit, and it actually works pretty well for typing and productivity in my basic testing here. The front and rear cameras are nice, and the sound is actually pretty good as well, since it's based on the Sound Blaster X-Fi 3 and it has Onkyo speakers included as well. The 17-inch screen is 1920 by 1080p, so no super high density pixels here, but it does have a matte finish, which I do appreciate on a gaming machine. For those of you that are adventurous enough to open up the inside of your EON17-SLX gaming machine, you'll find all of the hardware that we mentioned at the beginning. First, in the middle, you'll see the heatsink that's covering the Intel Core i7-4930MX processor. This is a quad-core hyper-threaded Haswell base part. It's got a 57-watt TDP, can scale up to 3.9 gigahertz, and does have integrated graphics, which you won't be taking advantage of much of the time since you have the SLI GPUs, but that's important for having the Thunderbolt connectivity. You've got 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance memory here, 2 8-gig modules running at 1600 megahertz. And then if you look at those large heat sinks and fans on the outside, those are where your GeForce GTX 780M graphics cards are sitting. They both have 4 gigs of dedicated frame buffer memory, so you're talking about 8 gigs of graphics memory on this machine. You can actually see the ribbon cable connecting them for the SLI connection. Each of those GPUs has 1536 CUDA cores running at 823 megahertz, plus they boost actually. So that's equivalent essentially to the desktop GTX 680 or GTX 770 graphics cards. Pretty impressive stuff. For storage, you have the 128 gig mSATA SSDs running in a RAID 0 array, which is nice, high performance, a lot of capacity there. And then you have a 750 gig Western Digital Black 2.5-inch hard drive for your storage and games and anything else you want to do with that. With specifications like this, obviously we expected a lot on the performance side from the EON17-SLX machine from Origin. On the processor side, we're talking performance of the quad-core hyper-threaded part that's rivaling and beating actually last generation's Core i7-3770K flagship desktop part, and it comes pretty close to the performance of the Core i7-4770K. If you look at benchmarks like Cinebench 11 or Pavre or the X264 benchmark, you'll find that this CPU is going to have more than enough power to accomplish any of the processor tasks that you might have for it. On the gaming side, obviously this is a gaming laptop. That's where we spent the majority of our time testing. The 1920 by 1080 native resolution of the panel was really no match for the GPUs at work here. The GTX 780M SLI configuration was able to power any game we could throw at it at its maximum settings at 1080p and not break a sweat. So Battlefield 4, Metro Last Light, BioShock Infinite, all those games ran at 50, 60 or above frames per second very, very easily. So what we wanted to do was stress the system. We hooked up a 2560 by 1440 panel and wanted to test these GPUs in this system at a higher resolution. And in this case, actually, we still got some pretty impressive results. Battlefield 4, for example, was running at more than 45 frames per second at its ultra preset. Metro Last Light was around 50 frames per second at its very high preset. And BioShock Infinite was at 90 frames per second under its ultra preset. So clearly, for a gamer that wants to have a high performance gaming PC, but also wants it to be somewhat mobile, you will find that the Origin EON17-SLX has more than enough power for what you need. Unfortunately, this type of gaming mobile power doesn't come cheap. The Origin PC, as we have it here today, specs out at about $4,500 if you go on their website. Now that's awfully expensive. I'm not going to try to jostle around that or sidestep that in any way, but it does have a lot of gaming performance, as we talked about. It has some interesting features. It's got the HDMI output, but it's also got the Thunderbolt output, so you might even be able to, write this off as a business expense if you use it as a mobile workstation as well. So there's a lot of compute power in the two GPUs. There's a lot of compute power in the processor from Intel as well, but for a budget gamer, this is obviously not something that you're going to want to choose here. But $4,500 gets you essentially the fastest mobile gaming powerhouse that we've ever seen, and that's in the Origin EON17-SLX gaming notebook.